Hey guys, it's Adam here. Sorry about the audio quality and the video quality and the random locationness. I'm out in New Jersey for something, and while I'm out here, the new Ubisoft conference for E3 just dropped. I got my little notepad. We're doing this, the traditional style, like when the world was normal and you could actually attend events, and I would go to E3, and then after the conference I'd run all the way to the hotel room and then fill something there, and you know how it goes. Anyway, so they just completed their Ubisoft Forward event. Hey, look, cars, because again, we're in this place called Nature, aka New Jersey. Anyway, so I've got a list of stuff that they went through. We're going to talk a little bit about each thing, and then just kind of the overall thoughts on the process. So Ubisoft Forward E3 2021. The first thing they talked about was Rainbow Six Extraction. They basically talked about this for 15 minutes, showing a cool trailer, and then eventually some gameplay and just, some talk with the devs and all that sort of stuff. It actually looks kind of decent. I don't think this was an announcement. I'm pretty sure we've known about this game for a while, but they just gave us a lot more detail. It actually looked pretty fun. It just looked like, kind of Rainbow Six, but with zombies or whatever instead. I'll give it a chance when when it happens. The next one up that was a complete shocker to me, and is really not my type of thing, but I have a guy here who might care. Come here, Rob. They announced Rocksmith. Tell them more about Rocksmith. You guys know him from my podcast that you don't watch.
So Rocksmith is playing off of the nostalgia of Guitar Hero Rock Band right now, but instead of playing a plastic guitar, you play a real guitar, and it's like an educational tool, and it's kind of stupid. And
anyway, you get it. So he's basically what he's talking about. They're bringing that back, except they're doing more of a digital integration version. So it uses things that connects to your phone and connect to tablets and PCs. It looks like it does a whole bunch of stuff. And my buddy James over here, who has not bothered to mute his phone, you can hear him. That's his little cameo. But yeah, if you're into personally, I'm not a music guy. Like anybody who knows me will tell you that. But if you're into it, I imagine that this would be kind of a neat service called Rocksmith Plus. But yeah, that's just my take on it. Next thing up is Riders Republic. This we've known about for a while. This is basically, I kind of compare it to like Trials Rising meets Steep, which are both Ubisoft games, which makes sense. It's got kind of that atmospheric tone of Steep, but it's, bike riding and so on and so forth. That actually looks perfectly fine and serviceable for, what it is. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out. Then they talked a while about Rainbow Six Siege updates, and specifically the one that shocked me the most is not just like DLC and new modes, although that will be there. The other thing they were talking about is like new platforms they're going to be launching it on. I was really surprised when they announced they were bringing it to Stadia. I mean, cool. I'm glad you're supporting it, I guess, but I was just shocked. It's like, you might as well hear they're making a 3DO version at this point, but okay, that's cool. Regardless, they're doing that. Then they showed a whole bunch of different DLCs and things they're working on for various games, various new modes for a whole bunch of stuff. You got to give them some props. If you bought a Ubisoft game within the last 5 years, there's a good chance it's getting a new mode all of a sudden or some new DLC content. Very specifically, they talked about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the whole new mode that they're creating, all new DLC packs. If you already have the season pass, you get all that stuff. So they just showed that off in great detail. They then did the big surprise announcement of the entire event that no one could have seen coming, Just Dance 2022. I'm not a big fan of that series, but it's basically it's a Ubisoft sports game at this point. It comes out every single year. I've never been a huge fan because look at me. I do not look like a person who can dance, and you'd be absolutely right for making that assumption. You can assume my inability to dance. So I respect people who can. I can't do that. But for those who can or cannot, Just Dance 2022 will be available to you. Then they talked a little bit more about some of the shows and TV things they're working on. They're doing some TV shows and movies. A couple years ago, last time I was at a physical E3 event, they talked about a show called Mythic Quest, which was basically like a comedic take on what it's like to be an indie or a developer or to work at a place like Ubisoft. I think it was created by the guy who did Community or something like that. I had no idea that show was already out and they were actually on season 2 at this point, but they are. So they were just kind of talking about that. And then they announced a movie called Werewolves Within. And I remember actually going to an event for that. It was a pretty neat VR game, actually, where you kind of have to guess who is a wolf based on clues. And they've decided to make an entire movie about it. And to their credit, they make a joke about it in the trailer. They're like, from this video game that you've definitely never heard of comes a new movie. So who knows? Maybe Werewolf Within, because its concept actually could work pretty well for a comedy movie, could actually be the first legitimately good video game movie. Hey UPS, how you doing? Could potentially be the first good video game movie. Then of course the big one, the real one, Far Cry 6. Now, obviously, that's no secret. We've known about Far Cry 6 for quite some time. Far Cry 6, by far, the most exciting thing on here, for me anyway. I love Far Cry games. So, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically taking in place in a pseudo type of Cuba situation. And then the guy who's playing the villain is the dude who was the villain in not only Breaking Bad, but in The Mandalorian. So, having that guy as your villain, that's awesome. So, I'm just, bring on Far Cry 6. Give it to me. I want it. But at the same time, they also talked about a new DLC mode. This was probably, in my opinion anyway, the most surprising announcement made during this whole thing, is that they're going to have a Far Cry 6 DLC that's built into the season pass that actually gives you the option to play as the legacy villains. So the villain from Far Cry 3, the villain from Far Cry 4, the villain from Far Cry 5, and so on and so forth. You can play as them in a whole new game mode and stuff. So I think that that'll be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to checking that out. This next one would have been a surprise. It would be like that guy's car, because he sure liked looking at us. The next one up was, this should have been a big surprise, but it was a little bit spoiled. Nintendo, funny enough, was the guys who revealed it, which is not usually how that works. They announced Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which would be a direct sequel to the previous Mario Rabbids game that Ubisoft had made. Again, it was very weird. This morning, at the time I'm recording this, Nintendo actually leaked that, and everybody's like, way to screw over Ubisoft on that one. Why would you do that? But yeah, that's going to be a thing, and it looked pretty cool. I mean, if you like that first game, I'm sure this is just more of that with more expansion and so on and so forth. And the last thing they showed, which I knew about this because I saw some random blurbs about it, but they just really went into detail. But I don't know how many people knew this. Ubisoft's making an Avatar game. It's called Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Avatar, not like the anime. Avatar, as in the James Cameron movie that was the biggest movie ever, and nobody seems to talk about or remember, from 2009, which is eventually going to have more sequels, and they've been saying that for about a decade. Hell, those were announced before the first movie came out. Regardless, that is getting a new game. It looked pretty neat, relatively speaking, considering what we actually saw. So yeah, that was pretty much it in a nutshell. I gotta say, as far as the actual show side of things, you have to give a little bit of a pass because we are dealing in this pandemic type of environment where they're not doing a physical event, and so they have to construct things in pre-assembled videos and so on and so forth. So some of that energy is not quite the same. It's a little different when you're actually there. It becomes more exciting, and then when it's more of a live thing that's on stage, kind of like that energy that maybe Saturday Night Live might have when it doesn't have that on rewatching. If you get what I'm saying, it feels a little like that. But overall, I'd say the first half was a little weak, but then they really kind of pulled out some victories towards the end with the heavy hitters like Far Cry 6 and all that stuff. The only real, honestly, shocking thing to me, legit shocking, is they didn't show or even mention the Star Wars game that they are talking about. That is not a secret. They announced that last year that they are going to be having a new Star Wars game, I believe made by the devs who specifically did The Division. Nothing. I understand that that's relatively recently in development, but at least Metroid Prime 4 us with a very basic 5-minute trailer, 5-minute assembled title card that just says Ubisoft, Lucasfilm, Star Wars, coming soon-ish. You know what I mean? That would have been my only really? You didn't not even acknowledged. But there you go. But anyway, guys, that will about do it here. That's the quick highlights from the Ubisoft event. I'm going to attempt to do one for the Microsoft/Bethesda thing. The only problem with that is I will be on a plane to Anchorage when that is happening. So if I do it, it will be after I've landed, I've rewatched it, and I upload it in the middle of the night when no one's paying attention. But we'll see. But yeah, that's it, guys. So hopefully that helps you recap on that. I appreciate the support. If you guys can check out the social media stuff in the description, like, comment, subscribe, hit the Patreon, hit the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Discord, all that stuff. I always appreciate that. Thank you guys very much for watching, as always. James, my buddy here, do you have anything to say to the nice people who came out to watch us recap an event that already occurred?
Thanks.
Invigorating, exciting. Yeah, actually, we're out at I know this is not relevant to the point of the video anymore, but we're out in New Jersey. My buddy Rob, who we made that little cameo before, He's having like a home warming party, or what do you call it? Housewarming party.
Housewarming
I
party.
forgot English.
That's okay.
He's having a housewarming party, so I had to be out here anyway. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna come out to your house. I'm gonna sleep on your couch. You'll be okay with that. Yeah, I'll come out to your house and sleep in your house, and you're fine with that. Yeah, very nice, and some of the best like bratwurst.
Oh
I've had.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, some of the best bratwurst I've had in a
The
long
ribs
time.
too.
Yeah, the ribs. His mom made the ribs.
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic.
I'm about to go have a lot
Yeah,
more.
you really should. And so I think I will join him. So thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you all later.